Hi, friends. Courtney here. You are watching Cosmically Connected with me, psychic medium Cortney Kane Sides, here on the Forbidden Knowledge Network. I am so happy to be here with you guys tonight. We are going to be discussing a few things kind of close to my heart, close to something that I've kept really close to my chest. I appreciate you guys being here, and I am so thrilled to go dive down this information with you. Last week, who of you saw the interview? Hi, Deanna. Hi, friends. I see you guys here. It means the world to me that you're checking this podcast out and that you tune in every week live with me. Last week, I chit-chatted with Forbidden's own Billy Carson, and we talked about his experience with having an alien kind of contact or an experience as a child, as a young boy. And I also shared my experience as well. And that podcast was the first podcast that I had ever truly spoken publicly about this. And it was something that was really difficult for me to do, something that I had started to share in my VIP inner circle, just touching on it briefly. And I wanted to touch base again tonight and go over that story again. How many of you have had an experience, whether that was while you were a child or as an adult, with either seeing an alien or having some sort of contact with a craft, either seeing a UAP, an object in the sky, or having an experience like the one Billy and I shared? Give me an emoji if you have had an experience like that. So I'll go ahead and go back and start to share this experience. So I was first, second grade, and I have to take a breath as I say this. Guys, take a good deep breath in with me. Big exhale out. Okay, let's call on those guides and angels, actually. Let's ground our energy. It's so funny. When I start to tell this story, I start to get really hot. I start to have almost this emotional, physical reaction. Very much like what you saw Billy have even last week. He was emotional, and many of you even said that you had watched him in all of his videos for so many years and not seen him even share that emotion. It was telling these stories that were so raw is something that almost can set you back to the experience of the first time that it happened. And that can be it just can be very jarring, very emotional. So guys, let's take a breath in. Typically, when we connect here in this podcast, we're calling on the guides and angels, and I would just like to do that tonight. So guys, big deep breath in, big exhale out. Okay, so guides and angels on our right, guides and angels on our left, guides and angels in front, and guides and angels in back to balance and harmonize our time here, leaving us in the light and allow nothing but the highest, the truest, or the best to manifest upon us now. When I connect to that mantra, guys, it feels as though this is what I know to be true, is that I'm completely connected within source energy and completely connected within the light of the highest of information. And by the way, I see all of the comments coming here. I hope to be able to touch base on some of those coming in tonight. So thank you for being here and sharing this. Hearting it, subscribing, all of the things that would mean the world to us here at Forbidden Knowledge, and me, Courtney. And so, yes, like Billy's saying, like that button. First grade, second grade, again, asleep in bed and having this experience of being woken up to this green, almost haze of a light. And having this, what I called at that time, he was very short. To me, I can't imagine him being any taller than, say, 4 feet. This being that came into my parents' bedroom. My father was out of town on work, and I was laying on my dad's side of the bed, and my mom was by the door, and my twin sister was in the middle. of the bed. And I almost have to slow down as I tell this story. And we had all been sound asleep. That night we had eaten butter and crackers as a snack and put them on the nightstand right next to my head. And I had been asleep for quite a few hours, and all of a sudden was woken up to this green light, this aura of color, and this being coming through the door. And immediately there was no jarring effect, just I immediately opened my eyes, and this being there locked eyes with me as he entered in this room. And as he's walking down the side of the bed, he's not taking his gaze off of me. And as he continues to come down the foot of the bed, he's still staring directly at me, never taking his eyes off of me not being able to scream, me being frozen and not being able to move, having that, simply many people have that experience where they wake up and they're having that, I'm losing the word now, but having that frozen feeling. It can be already just very traumatic just with that experience alone, let alone having this being in this room. I had never had anything like that happen. And as this being comes through, somebody said, why does it have to be a he? I like that, actually. I don't know if it was a he. And paralysis. Yes, Michelle, thank you for that. Paralysis, sleep paralysis. But I was wide awake in this experience. Yes, Natasha says shock, very much in shock. And this being was coming all the way down the foot of the bed, and slowly I'm laying there, and I remember my eyes just being as wide as could be. A little girl not really understanding what was happening. And this energy coming all the way up to that nightstand where that cracker and the crackers and the knife were that we had been eating the butter and spreading the butter on those crackers. This being picked up that knife and cut me on my knee. As soon as the knife touched my knee, I then was able to speak. I then was able to scream. And at that time, I rolled off the bed, and my mother, of course, laying right next to me, woke up, was jarred awake. And as soon as that being touched my leg, that being was gone. It disappeared like that. My twin sister, of course, woke up to, the commotion as well. And my mother scooped me up and rushed me into the bathroom because I was bleeding down my leg. And my mom's trying to comfort me, telling me, oh, it was a bad dream. You had to have fallen down, or you had to have fallen off the bed and hit your leg on something. There was nothing there. And there was nothing there but the knife there on the floor, right? The butter knife. And she bandaged my leg. And I sat there frozen, and I sat there terrified, trying to tell her, and her, of course, trying to soothe my energy. And that night was a night that never left my brain, never left my mindset. It was a night that startled me. Even now, it's been a story that, I've had many paranormal experiences happen in my lifetime, and that's enough for another podcast on another evening. But that experience was so jarring that it was the one that I never told. My twin sister, of course, knew. My mother knew. But even my older sisters didn't know until probably the last few years, where that story had come out. And they were shocked. And of course, look at me like I'm crazy, which is the way many people look when people have experiences like this. And that's another reason why many of us don't share these experiences, because we know the way that it seems. We know the way that it sounds. We know how ridiculous maybe that is. But those of us who have had experiences like that, know how, I would say, life-changing and life-altering that can be. And so, even my twin sister, what was really interesting is the day before I shared that story with Billy last week, I was walking my dog around the neighborhood, and my twin sister had called, um, and I was sharing with her that, oh my gosh, I was going to share this story, and she said, oh, she started to repeat the situation or the story, and, she used to giggle and kind of laugh about it, because to her it was such an odd thing. And what was really sweet was this time she didn't. She knew through years of her, first of all, understanding my gifts and abilities and understanding my sensitivity and understanding that experience, she really held space for me. And what's really interesting is, she recited the evening from her perspective, which was really, really cool to hear. Her remembering me sitting there on the back of, or on the toilet actually, as my mother was sitting there, bandaging me up, her wiping the blood away, and that experience, and her reciting the way that she heard me sound, or the way that she heard me describe to her that evening back in detail in the way that it is that I remembered it. And guys, I appreciate that. Thank you, Thad. I appreciate that. We all do here at Forbidden Knowledge. This support that you all have for each other, and the support that you have for us, it really does mean the world. And it isn't easy to share these experiences. If you'll understand and you'll see other people coming out with these stories and these interactions that we've had through a lifetime, and it's because the world is waking up. I saw a comment earlier before we even started that said that, you were hoping that more people were going to be waking up and opening their eyes. And I believe that people are, and I believe many of us are already teachers. I've been doing my spiritual work and having clients for now 18 years. And even the teachers are going to be evolving into trusting and sharing those things that have been really terrifying to them. And for me, this story was one of those only things that I had left that I had not quite been completely transparent with. And it was something that I will tell you, last week when I was able to share that with you all, there was a relief within my system. There was a relief within everything in my being to be able just to put it all out there. There's nothing more that I could share other than that experience I had been holding on to. And guys, when we hold on to those experiences, whether it's something like that or another situation, when we hold on to those things and we don't we hide them, or maybe we don't fully even heal from them, it does push our full potential or energy down. Yes, Matt says a release. Yes, it does help us release trauma. It helps us release energy that can help us maybe even move forward as more teachers, as move forward in a community, move forward together, and help other people to feel as though that you're not alone and that you can also share. I also shared last week that I had other experiences, but I want to say that after that evening as a child, I remember being able to hear songs very, very almost like I would start to hear a tune, and I would almost immediately know all of the song or all of the words in the song. And that started to happen after that experience. And so I think that's kind of an odd thing. There is, I think, a connection to experiences like that that can heighten your own knowing, your gifts, your abilities, your intuitive notion. And I think that it is interesting. I don't know exactly what to think of that always. Matt says music is a language. It certainly is. But there was this particular experience where I remember I had never even heard the music before, and it came on the radio as a new song, and I immediately knew all the words. And I've always had that knack. Even now, music, I almost never forget the lyrics, which is really weird. And so to almost clue that into that experience, I think can be kind of a funny thing to do, but I do. I think there was something that happened within that experience that um, that helped me with some sort of gift, some sort of knowing, which is interesting. Do I know exactly what that was? Do I know what to make of it? Is there a word, a language for it? Maybe. I'm not quite sure what that is though. So later, though, as a child, my curiosity started to heighten. I could feel things and know things walking into a room. And we've talked about that here on this podcast before. And many of you are also very intuitive. Now, you might call them intuitively connected to, say, other dimensions, other crafts, other beings, your loved ones on the other side, all of those things. And I'm a firm believer that we all have this gift. I believe it is not just woo woo or, spiritual necessarily, but it's also, to me, science. There's a frequency, a rising in vibration to attune to this energy. And so as that child, as I started to grow, I started to really hone in on that empathic ability, or that ability to walk into a room and just know things. I might not have necessarily had confirmation of some of those knowings, but I could feel energy and know beyond my young mindset, if you will. And I believe that those gifts, yes, started maybe because of that experience, but because of many other things that were happening as well. Now, I do um, through my life experience, I was also having lots of loss, lots of grief, losing people, wanting to find connection, and understanding that our loved ones, of course, do connect with us on the other side. And as I was getting older, I had moved to Phoenix. And if you guys are familiar with the Phoenix lights, once I moved to Phoenix, Phoenix has always been kind of a hot spot for UFOs or with other, experiences like that. The Phoenix Lights was a story. It was a doctor that lived on Camelback, and she had started to feel as though there was some sort of knowing and energy in when she was sitting on her patio or outside, and she would yes, people, I see you guys have heard of that. It's so interesting. That story was something that I had heard of quickly as I moved to Phoenix, and I was fascinated. I could not get my hands on enough information. And I will tell you that how many of you, by the way, give me an emoji if you feel this, how many of you have always been fascinated with certain things like that? How many of you have felt drawn to, UAPs or alien information, or say, ancient aliens, the History Channel, all of that information? I believe that when we are really interested in something, it's because we already know that there's some sort of truth there. We know that we also have some sort of connection to this information or this energy. And so while there in Phoenix, in my personal time, I have always been massively interested in UFOs, in conspiracy, which typically always come out as truth, if right? Most of you probably are aware of that now. But those are the things that personally I've always been quite drawn to. But the spiritual and the psychic or the mediumship work was, I don't want to say easy for me, but it has always been more of a heart-centered space for me. Now, I will say that those two things do, for me, feel as though they go hand in hand. And believe that we can have all of those things and be rising in our awareness in all aspects of our energy. So I don't know that it has to be necessarily one or the other. We could be so fully connected to our own awareness and knowing, and so rising in our or conscious activity, the vibration, and wanting to dive into more of this other information as far as UAPs and all of that. Now, I will say that as I was, again, reading everything that I could possibly get on it, I was having this experience. I also shared a couple of these stories, which I'm going to share with you tonight. Again, I was married and now divorced from this person, but my daughter was in Oklahoma with her father, and I had been my husband at the time. We were asleep at night. It was summertime. We had gone out, come home, and had been sound asleep for quite a while. And all of a sudden, there was this almost this woo, this crazy, well, what felt like a warped electric energy. Okay. And all of a sudden, it just felt like if somebody had it, I don't even know how to explain it, but it almost felt as if we had been picked up and just catapulted just right back in our bed. And this ex-husband of mine now was a complete skeptic. I was interested in this information. I was interested in UAPs. I was interested in aliens, all of that. But it was always, oh my gosh, what if? There was nothing really massively proof that I had ever really had other than that experience as a child. And in that experience, I was hoping so desperately that it was, you know, something other than what it was. And so that evening, when that happened, I was laying there in that bed, and there was that warped, odd electric shift or energy. And all of a sudden, my eyes were just open, and I laid there, and I knew immediately that John was wide awake as well. And I said, I think we both said, "What was that?" at the exact same time. And then at the same time, we both said, "Aliens," and which would have never have been on his mindset. Never would have been within his energy to even pull from or say. And so what was really crazy is that after that happened, we were shocked. We could not go back to sleep, and we were really we had no idea what happened. So it was one of those things that I just simply logged down and maybe took notice of. How many of you have had experiences like that and maybe not even known what to call them? I never labeled it. I don't even necessarily want to call it, what maybe some might. My skeptic's mindset wants massive proof. And so, yeah, L. Dot says, yeah, they called me crazy. Yeah, and these stories were stories that I never told anybody. These stories that I kept inside because there's not a lot of safe spaces to share this information, whether we might feel as though we'll be, judged by friends, colleagues, neighbors, all of those things. It's maybe a scary thing to open up to. I understand it fully. And what's so interesting is, I've come out of the closet within my psychic gifts and work for so many years, but then to hold on to so much of this other, it was because of that jarring experience as a child, is because it felt so traumatic to me. And so I know that I'm not alone in this. And I know many of you have had experiences maybe like this or something within that realm of activity. And the other experience that I'd had was an experience when I was also in Phoenix. I was coming home from work and grabbing dinner for my family and walking out of the restaurant and getting it to go. And my husband at the time kept calling and was trying to get my attention. And finally I answered the phone after maybe the millionth ring. And I said, "Hey, my hands are full. What's going on?" And he said, "Where are you?" And I said, "I'm at 18th and Camelback." And I said, "Where are you?" And he said, "I'm at 24th and Camelback." He said, "Do you see that?" And I said, "What?" He said, "Look up in the sky." And I looked up, and it was a massive craft, the triangular craft that I know Billy had a name for it. I don't even have a name for it. One of you might even know what that is. So if you do, please share it in the comments. That would mean a lot to me. But this massive craft that was just hovering, and very slowly, I say hovering, but it was very slowly gliding. There were no lights around, although it was blocking out the stars, and other people were honking and seeing it, but it was massive. It looked as though one of the tips were where I was, which again was 18th and Camelback, and he was on 24th and Camelback. It was massive, huge. And again, this husband of mine was absolutely very analytical, very left brain, never something that he would ever validate, especially if I had just seen this and told him about this. He would have thought, again, I was crazy. I was the nutso one. And so he said, just get home, get home. And so we lived at 32nd and Camelback. So we both sped home, got home and got in. And that person, my husband, was a changed person after that. That experience almost to him startled him in the way that that young childhood experience that I had, it startled him. And from that point on, he was changed in that way. It was something that really, really shocked his system. And I know that many of us who have had experiences like that and have been almost so startled that it caused you to almost isolate in energy or feel as though you were very alone in your own experience. It's really somebody, Thad says 32nd Street or 32nd Avenue. It was 32nd Street. It was in the Biltmore community right behind Safeway there at 32nd and Camelback. We lived in a condo at the Meridian, and so I loved that place. It was beautiful, and I love that some of you people are from Phoenix, so thank you guys for watching. But that experience was something that I talked to my business partner about. I back then was doing lots of radio shows, paranormal radio shows, and was with a business partner. We were both working under the name Sparrow Kane in our spiritual work. And so I had shared a little bit in some of those other radio broadcasts, but very lightly. I never told that story about the experience as a child. And it's because it was such a traumatic experience. I did not want anybody to think poorly of me, which is so sad. Think of how many people that have been almost held silent from their truth because they didn't feel as though it was safe to share. And it was later, many years later, I was working for a neurofeedback company, and I was listening to podcasts all the time, typically about UAPs, Area 51. I was always a massive information junkie around anything like that I could get. And I had found a psychologist out of New York City, and he was a psychologist that was hypnotizing many possible abductees or people who had had experiences like mine. And well, I don't want to say like mine. I didn't know they were like mine, but I was able to find some of the recordings of his sessions that he had had with some of his patients. And when I listened to them, I was so startled and so shocked because their stories, their experiences were exactly almost verbatim in the way that I experienced that energy when I was a child. The way that their fear in their voice, the fear in the experience was something that I completely related to, and it really, really startled me. What's really interesting is that experience, guys. I believe that we have these experiences to wake up, to help us see. Do I know why exactly? I don't know that I ever really will. Even Billy, when Billy shared his story last week, it was so heartfelt. And you'll understand if I encourage you guys to go back and watch that podcast with Billy and I last week. He's emotional because life changes when we share these stories of, whether it's alien contact or connection or paranormal connection. We very often are alienated from the life or the world that we were connected to. And Billy so honestly and authentically was sharing that. And so it's not an easy thing to do, to be able to speak up and share from the heart our experiences. Tab says, yes, Courtney, so do I, to awaken us. Yes, the experiences I do think happen for that. Now, I'm a firm believer that we can connect. When I call on my guides and angels, we're connecting to that highest of energy, highest of light. And I do believe that some of those guides can be extraterrestrial beings. But I do also believe that some of them have really beautiful high golden energy, and some of them have a lower grade energy. And so I do believe that we should, this is my opinion, be specific on the kind of energy we're wanting to connect to. Okay. Very interesting. I'm seeing some really great questions coming in here. Does anybody have a question that I can answer for you? Or even if you're wanting to share one of your own experiences. What's really interesting is I do believe that this is a really great community, a way for us to be able to share from each other or for each other, so that we all also understand that we're not alone in this. There is a community, there is a connection that we all have here, and that's why you guys have found this beautiful network, the Forbidden Knowledge Network. Judy says, I've seen many beings with the third eye during healing sessions. Yes. What's interesting is, when I paint, I actually have a painting here. When I paint for my clients in my private sessions, I always paint, there's a painting here, I would show it to you, but I don't want to mess up the camera. That is an example of a painting from earlier today. It's already dry and all of that. But when I paint, I have always seen that head of connection. Now, very often that's their own aura or their own guide, their own person kind of coming through in a session. But very often they have been almost beautiful galactic beings, so that can happen too. I do believe that I had that experience for me to be able to draw on that today in the work that I do. Just very interesting. Interesting. Let's see here. Yes, very cool, guys. I so appreciate you guys being here. Goddess Kim says, did the alien experience cause extreme nightmares that you could not remember what the dreams were about, but woke up terrified? Let me see, let me read that one more time. Did the alien experience cause extreme nightmares that you could not remember what the dreams were about, but woke up terrified? That's a really good question. I have, as a child, I was always very skittish, and I would say that it was maybe it started from that experience that I had. I grew up in a big old house, many bedrooms. It was, basement, a 3-story home, and you run up the stairs and you hear the creaking, or the doors would kind of sway when the air conditioner or whatever would come on. And so I grew up a little nervous, and I could always feel energy in certain rooms or whatever, not necessarily knowing then what that was. Today I do. I could just feel the almost the imprint of emotion or energy that had always been in the home. Some people would call them ghosts or spirits or whatever, but I could feel all of those things. And after that experience, I do believe that I was even more skittish, more nervous about it. And yes, dreams, nightmares were definitely a thing. I was somebody who always wrote those things kind of out. As a young child, I was very artistic. And so painting, moving through color with some of those things were always very helpful as well. But I do believe that there were some dreams where there was still maybe even contact being made. Something I teach my development clients, and this is because of being a child, and I know for a fact because of that experience as a young girl, was that when I learned very early that it was okay that I could set parameters around what I connected to versus what I did not connect to. And also between, or also with almost like hours of operation. And so even with my guides and angels, many people in who are wanting to connect, there it's almost like a free for all. They want to just connect whenever, all the time, whatever. Whatever they need to get. But I'm a little bit more of a boundary girl. And what I mean by that is around 9 o'clock, I'm done. Shop is closed. It's all about Cortney at that point, or my family. If I need to have a dream, if my mom or my father want to come through in a dream to me or something like that, fine. But any other contact as far as, let's say, extraterrestrial or guides and angels, I would like them to come. Operating hours are from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. And so I believe that we can kind of set the stage for a time of connection. I'm open to receive those things if it is of my highest good. But if they can wait till the morning, let's wait till the morning. Now, that's my belief. Many people might not believe that, but I believe that because of that experience as a child, I need a little bit of parameters around contact. Very often when we're working on connecting to those guides and angels, very often we might feel as though we're being touched in the middle of the night. We might feel as though we're getting woken up for, automatic writing or things like that. And that's something that for me, because of that experience when I was little, it's just not something that I really invite in. And so if you are wanting to connect, if you are wanting to make parameters with your own experiences, believe that you can, and you will be able to. Okay, believe that you can negotiate how you want to receive. I do believe that we all have that ability to do that. Yes. Jeanette, thank you so much. I appreciate you, my dear. Jeanette's from California. She's watching us and she's a medium as well. Thank you, my friend. Love Lucci says we need to be discerning of the fake alien landings. They're planning to warp our perceptions. That's actually a really great topic. If you guys are here and you watch the Forbidden Knowledge Network often, hopefully you've seen Roderick's podcast. He's really great, a good buddy of mine. And we've had some conversations, very loose conversations, actually at Billy's house over New Year's Eve around a little bit of that topic. And maybe I'll invite him on and we can go in deeper with that. But I do agree that I think that now that there's becoming more of a discussion on the government saying, yes, they've been covering this up for so long, I do believe that what experiences we might see might need to be filtered through what feels like truth to us versus what doesn't. And so I do believe that using your discernment, I love the way that you said that, Lychee, or I love how you said that, because that to me is so important. You understand that, how does it feel to me? Even in my own work, guys, I tell my clients all the time, just because, it says Cortney Psychic Medium, what do you know to be true? How does that feel to you? Does that feel like truth to you? I believe that we understand that, what feels like a knowing to us. And if something does not feel truthful to you, then then you don't have to take that. Okay. You can find out what that is to you. Mama Zeke, my friend, I have your painting. I have it. It's sitting right over here, my friend. I will get that out to you. Let's see here. Shooting stars harder to see in the daylights. Yes, I love it. Okay. Authentic says, I just want to say that you know your experience. So if someone doesn't believe you, you are not obligated to convince anyone. Take it or leave it to them. Keep your spirits up. That is so true. I operate by that. And I love how you just said that. So thank you so much for that. Authentic is who just said that. What is really interesting is in my own spiritual work, I'm okay with somebody believing or not believing. It doesn't really matter to me. And that experience that I had as a child, it just was so raw. And I'm now saying and expressing it a little bit more. And you're correct in the sense that it doesn't really matter what somebody else knows to be true. It does matter what we know to be true. And so I appreciate that, my friend. Thank you so much. Yes. Interesting. So I do believe that when we have contact, we are able to almost tune in vibrationally to that energy. And everybody's talking here, or a few people are referencing the third eye. Meditation is a key source for connection and contact. And most of my clients, especially whenever they are really wanting to develop those gifts and abilities, many don't want that information. They want to be able to feel as though they can turn on a switch for connection. And very often it does require some steadiness, some healing, and us connecting back to our full energy for us to be able to understand and access that third eye so that we can understand what we're receiving. When we have that calm, grounded energy, we can then understand and actually even ask more questions and dive in deeper to the information. And so, can we attune to, after we've had that experience, and even if we haven't had an experience like that, can we attune to the likeness of that energy or to a being from, say, a Palladian, or, you could Anunnaki, you could list a million different beings. Can we tune into that energy? Absolutely. Should we maybe be a skeptic even about it until we find out what feels like truth to us? I believe so. Yes, I believe so. Yes. Nicole says, can you give me a tip to concentrate better? Well, meditation. Most people don't like that answer, and it's because it is hard to sometimes quiet down the brain, quiet down the mind. And so even doing a guided meditation and noticing, start to celebrate that the gaps within the thoughts become more wide. If we were to have no thought or nothing come up within our meditation or our mindset, we'd be dead. Okay. And so within or a master monk, if you will. So I believe that, when we're meditating and we're trying to find connection, it feels like thought, 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 thought. And the point of the meditation is to have just a little more gap within each thought. And if that is growing in time, you're being successful. You're going to find your own energy there, and you will be able to concentrate a little bit more. Guys, I appreciate you being here. If this is finding, if you're finding that this is helpful for you, if you're finding that you're connected to this information, if you could do me a favor and hit that follow and like button and subscribe to this network, and also subscribe over to my own personal YouTube page too. I'll throw that banner up there for you. Let's see here. If I can find it. No, I'm not going to be able to find it. We're just going to keep moving along. But it is under Cortney Kane Sides. That would mean the world to me if you would make sure that you jumped over there and followed that channel as well. I don't really advertise that channel a lot. There will be more videos and more lives going on over there too. If you're also wanting more connection, of course, you can also find me on CourtneyKaneSides.com. And we go into such beautiful detail with psychic work and connection and communication with our own loved ones on the other side in my VIP inner circle, which is also on that website, CourtneyKaneSides.com, which is down in the description here too. Let's see. Comment or not says, how come I don't dream? Good question. I love your question over and over and over. I would say this before you go to bed. And listen, I would do this for a while and see how it falls into place for you. But I would ask, when you go to bed, ask your guides and angels to come through to you in a way that you will, in a dream, in a way that you will consciously remember in the morning. Asking that specific something is, to me, I have found that really does work. I would always suggest also to have a notebook on the side of your bed. And when you do dream, if you do dream, when that happens and you wake up, grab your phone, put it on video or voice memo. And I mean still laying down, grab that phone, do not even lift up, grab it, put it on video, and start to recite the dream into your phone. If you raise up, you'll lose 20% of your dream. If you get up and go to the restroom, you're going to lose 80% of the dream. And it'll be in the afternoon by the time you'll remember, oh man, I had a really amazing dream, but I can't remember what the details were. So go ahead and ask those guides and angels to come through to you in a way that you will consciously remember, and see if that starts to shift for you. I believe it will. I do believe it will. Thank you guys. Everybody's loving my money tree. Thank you. This corner, if you were with me last week on this podcast, my dear friend Sandy Sue Feng Shui was with me, and I have had this money tree in my office here before, a few different places, and I just realized it should have been in this corner the whole time. No clue. And so that was something that I realized last week. So you will see that over here from now on. Okay. Yes. Hi, Tamara. I see you there, my friend. So who all here? How many of you guys have had your own experience? Who have had your own experience with having some sort of contact, whether you feel as though it was in a meditation? We can, as we're connecting to the guides and angels, we can also, with careful craft, I want to say, ask for those, call them celestial beings. We can connect to those more extraterrestrial energies as well. But again, when I do that, I ask that nothing but the highest, the truest, or the best come through. And I'm asking that it's of the highest form of energy. So if we're going to connect to that type of energy, we want high grade connection. Okay. We don't want low grade, low energy that's also going to deplete you. Okay. And so how many of you are interested in actually connecting in that way? We should do a little workshop on that. Actually, that might be really interesting. Yes. Judy says, if aliens land at the White House, I won't believe them. I know. I actually kind of agree. It's really sad that once they start to allow some of the information to come out, once it's forced, it might not feel as authentic, if that makes sense. And so I think that we've been lied to in so many ways for so long that it feels as though it's going to be still heavily kind of crafted to be marketed to us or something. And so I understand that. The more, and I cringe as I'm about to say this, but who saw that the Kardashians, somebody was talking about the Kardashians were talking about aliens and abductions and things like that. And so it's like, okay, once the mainstream media is talking about it, it starts to feel as though it could be possibly pushed in a way that does not feel authentic. And so I agree with you there, my friend. Eric says, I had a crazy dream once. I was being operated on, then I started to cry. I heard someone say, he's not supposed to cry. Then I woke up and I had 3 dots on my upper chest shaped like a triangle. Yeah, very interesting. That, I hear you, my friend. It's interesting. There is a documentary out there. And some of you, I'm going to try to scroll all the way down. There's lots of comments here, guys. Way behind here. But there's a documentary called Patient 17. And it's a really, really sweet, reluctant person who is sharing his experience. And he is not, many people who have these experiences, like myself, like Billy, we didn't ask for that kind of connection or that kind of contact. And whenever that happens, it can still be, again, quite startling. And so in that documentary, it was Jeremy Corbell is the person who did the documentary, but they follow this man and they do all the testing with the implant that was put into his body. And so he had kind of the same situation that I just spoke of there in your comment. and they were able to find something, and the matter that this object was something that could not have been put together here on this planet, and they had it tested really fully and scientifically, of course. And so that's an interesting documentary. When I saw that, that was something I also shared last week, but I saw that documentary, and the place that that man's implant was right below the knee on his leg, was exactly where I was cut. And so that, how do I feel about that? I don't like it. I don't love that. Do I want to think that something like that happened? No. Do I know? No. Is it eerie? Yes. Does it make me want to go have it checked out? Maybe. The more you go looking for it, the more you might find it, is a little bit how I feel. So I feel a little reluctant in that department, but I hear you, my friend. And then you have to say that that happened. Then it's something that you can't quite not share, I guess, if that makes sense. All right. So let's see here. I love my friend about the dream. I answered your question. I hope that you got that. Yes. Let's see here. Let's see here. Let's see. My experiences had a witness at least half of the time. That's really interesting. I mean, I guess mine did too. However, um, it it was like a passive witness. It wasn't somebody who was actually witnessing the full energy. Does that make sense? And so that was something that could be really obnoxious. Let's see here. Okay. My name is Crystal. I have an 18-year-old nonverbal daughter who apparently laughs it up with spirits I can see. Can you tell me who's hanging out with Casey? Hi, my friend. I'm not going to go into massive questions like that tonight, but I will tell you that I would write that down, or write down how often that she's having those experiences, and just track it. I feel like that could be pretty cool. Okay. Nicole Armour, thank you for asking again. My channel, it's under my name. It's under actually this podcast. It's called Cosmically Connected with Cortney Kane Sides. And Cortney is with no U, so Cortney. You can also find my website at CourtneyKaneSides.com. And all of that information is in the description below. And so, guys, I appreciate all the follows on social media and all of that. On this podcast, usually every week, we're talking about connecting to those guides and angels. We are answering questions from the guides, from your loved ones on the other side. We talk about our own spiritual gifts. And so I appreciate you being here tonight. This is my first time talking with you all solo about this experience, and that is something new for me. And so, last week again, I shared this experience with Billy, and that because of his experiences, because of his, of course, vast knowledge, it just felt like the perfectly safe space. And the fact that this is the channel that my podcast is hosted on is not a surprise to me. It does feel like, we have all of these crazy coincidences, which are not actually coincidences, and experiences throughout our life. And maybe it's because we were supposed to be brought together to, and Elizabeth was to bring all of us together and connect us here, so that we can all find almost our family, our light source, our starseed family. I had a client yesterday. His painting was right over there. He was super precious. And there was another woman today that I had too, who very often, and they were actually referred by this channel, by the Forbidden Knowledge Network. What I find is that many of you guys you're here because you're on a quest. You're here because you have a quest to know more. You're here because you have been shielded from what feels like the truth. Okay. You've been shielded from what you have known to be true and your own information. You understand that there's something more happening here. It's so interesting for us to be waking up and coming here together. Okay, what's really, really cool is that there's a reason that we're all bonded together, and I think that it's because of these experiences. We're here to help each other move through to the next level, the next awareness, the next consciousness, the next vibration. What I will say too is that most of the individuals that I'm finding, very often they're feeling very isolated and alone, many of the clients that I'm seeing. And it's because they feel as though they are stuck and they don't have anybody to share these experiences with, whether they're their own psychic gifts and abilities or these interactions with extraterrestrials or the energy. Okay. And so I do feel as though we're here, there's beautiful community here, and any of this information that really resonates with you, I want to say it's typically because the information is already there within you. When Billy's sharing his information and you're like, that feels like truth, I know that, it is because you already have this information somewhere within you. And it's the same with the energy I'm sharing typically as well. It's not as if you're hearing it for the first time. You're hearing it because this feels like truth to you. And when we speak up and we share these experiences, when we share our knowing, we share, we share the information, we find other people that resonate with it. Very interesting. Well, guys, I so appreciate you being here tonight. Thank you for listening yet again. I'm going to bring up this conversation and this connection probably once a month. And so next week, I can't remember what the topic is next week. I think Elizabeth might be joining me next week. I'm super excited to talk about that and biohacking and spiritual connection, all of those things. So, guys, thank you for being here. Thank you for trusting this work and connecting with me every week here on the Forbidden Knowledge Network. I would so appreciate your follow on Instagram, Facebook, all of the things. That's where I share all of the fun events, especially when we're going to go live. I want to be doing more lives on YouTube. So go find me over there on my personal channel as well, Cosmically Connected with Cortney Kane Sides. And I love you guys. I will see you next week.